Welcome to the Not Old Better Show Good Housekeeping interview series on radio and podcast. The show covering all things health, wellness, culture, kitchen, cooking, and more. The show for all of us who aren't old, we're better. Each week, we'll interview superstars, experts, and ordinary people doing extraordinary things, all related to this wonderful experience of getting better, not just older. Now here's your host, the award-winning Paul Vogelzang.
What do you really know about the products you use every single day? At Good Housekeeping, it's not guesswork, it's science. In this special interview series, we sit down with the experts behind the lab doors, the scientists, the analysts, the pros, the chefs, who test everything from sneakers to saucepans to these wonderful recipes that we're going to be talking about today. These are not ads at all. These are facts backed by 100 years of trusted Good Housekeeping testing. Welcome to the brand new Not Old Better Show Good Housekeeping interview series where smarter living starts with knowing more. I'm Paul Vogelzang, and today's episode is all about the beauty of food. And it's never just about what's on the plate. It's about the memories, the health choices, the stories behind each ingredient. And as we learn today, each stage of the preparation of the food is just amazing. The joy of sharing it with the people that we love. Welcome to the Not Old Better Show Good Housekeeping interview series on radio and podcast. Today, we're turning up the flavor on an episode that will leave your mouth watering and your wellness goals re-energized. My guest is none other than Kate Merker, the brilliant, bold, and endlessly creative Chief Food Director at Good Housekeeping. Kate is a professionally trained chef. She's a cookbook author and the guiding force behind the delicious, tested, and trusted recipes that land on millions of American dinner tables each year. Kate Merker's here to share her insights from the legendary Good Housekeeping Test Kitchen, where food meets science, flavor meets nutrition, and innovation meets the everyday cook. We're going to be talking about grilling. We're going to be talking about some heart-healthy recipes. We're going to be talking about smart strategies for your summer meals and even a few surprise ingredients that just might change the way you eat forever. You're going to love this recipe that we are going to be talking about just momentarily. But for those of us who've seen more than a few cookouts over the decades, Kate reminds us the joy of cooking is ageless, and the secret to wellness often starts right on your plate. So whether you're cooking for one, grilling for your grandkids like me, or just hungry for something new, this episode is your invitation to savor the moment and maybe even try something bold on the barbecue grill tonight. Let's get right to it. Join me in welcoming Kate Merker, Good Housekeeping. Kate Merker, you are the Chief Food Director at Good Housekeeping. It is just a pleasure to talk with you today. Welcome.
Paul, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Me too. I think this is really be a great conversation. I think our audience is just going to enjoy getting to know you and all that your work. You have this amazing, very impressive career history. And I wanted to just touch on that because you must have seen a lot of things along the way that help us create the meals that we love. And I wonder what the lessons have been to you.
Absolutely. I will say that though none of the restaurants that I worked in had Michelin stars, I have had the opportunity to work with some incredible chefs. And there's one thing from my time there to now that has remained the same, and that is taste, right? And when I say taste, the first thing that every chef taught me was you have to taste everything, not at the end of a dish, but at the beginning and throughout the entire process of cooking. And that not only helps you season during that whole process, so you end up with the most delicious dish possible, but more importantly, it helps you develop what I call a taste memory, right? And that taste memory means that when somebody on my team is making a dish and we taste it, again, sometimes in the middle of the process, sometimes at the end of the process, we can figure out if it's not quite right, where we could make a change. Right? So if you only taste a dish at the end, you don't have the progression of the life of that dish. Whereas if you taste it throughout the entire process, you'll know that at At the middle stage, you might need a little bit more of this or a little less of that, or you might have to add a few more minutes to caramelize tomato paste to bring out its flavor or something else. So that taste memory, that kind of trajectory of a recipe and the life of that recipe from start to finish and tasting it from start to finish, I would say is the most important thing that I've taken from my time in the restaurant world to every dish that I make or taste or cook with my team.
I never really thought of it that way, but it makes sense because I know from my research of you that you have written a number of cookbooks and do an awful lot of work on recipes. We're going to talk about some of this today, but it just makes sense to progressively, you know, kind of taste right along the way because that just gives you a sense as to what is working and what isn't immediately. Just a lot of makes sense.
Yeah, it's how you know why the dish ends up the way it ends up, right? If you have that progression of taste throughout.
And and this is all very science backed too, because you mentioned caramelizing the onions and so forth. There's a real important component to understanding the chemical process that's going on too, and you probably need to know that throughout the various steps.
Absolutely. Whether it's low heat, high heat, cooking with a cover, cooking without a cover, every ingredient reacts differently depending on how much fat, how much steam, how much water, how much anything else comes into play, without a doubt.
Really interesting stuff. This is great. Yeah. Your work is just amazing online too. I checked the Good Housekeeping site for some of your recent work, and you've written this great dictionary of cooking terms. I love that, and so I want to talk for just a second about what you've seen in terms of the kind of change that's come about, through innovation and terminology with regard to cooking.
I will say that part of I am smiling because my brother asked me for how to cook something, and I sent him a recipe, and he called me back and he said it was a complete fail. And I said, "Well, did you simmer it?" And he said, "What's simmer?" And I said, "Oh," I said, "Simmer is where you have really tiny bubbles. It's not quite boiling. It's just barely bubbling." And he said, "I didn't do that." And I was like, "Well, now we know why it didn't work." But cooks, chefs, there's a lot of people who know what saute means, and a lot of people who don't. And I think sometimes we take that for granted. So I assume that he would know what simmering is, or there's that amazing TV episode where there's this whole part of it where they talk about folding. Just fold it in. And what does that mean, right? Because it's not mixing, it's not whisking. It means you're taking a spatula or a spoon and you're gently sort of working ingredients in kind of a large circular motion so you can maintain, in certain cases, air, and in other cases, other types of things.
Well, that's the beauty of food. It's never just about what's on the plate. It's about the memories, the health choices, the stories behind each ingredient, and the joy of sharing it all with the people we love. When it comes to helping us make those memories more meaningful and more delicious, few people do it better than today's guest, Kate Merker. From test kitchens to top magazines, Kate Merker has made it her mission to bring smart, accessible, flavor-packed recipes into our homes. So now, let's step behind the scenes with the woman that's leading Good Housekeeping's food vision. Let's hear more from how she is defining and redefining what it means to eat well, to age well, to live well, one meal at a time. We will be right back with Kate Merker. If you're like me, you've trusted Good Housekeeping for years. The recipes, the reviews, the real-life advice that makes your home smarter, healthier, and, well, happier. But now Good Housekeeping has taken it to the next level with GH Plus, a powerful membership designed just for people who love trusted information and want more of it faster. With GH Plus, you'll get unlimited digital access to every article, recipe, and lab-tested product review on goodhousekeeping.com. You'll also receive the iconic Good Housekeeping magazine delivered right to your door for an entire year. You'll also get exclusive recipes straight from the legendary Good Housekeeping Test Kitchen, member-only newsletters, discounts, and direct access to the experts at the Good Housekeeping Institute. This is more than a subscription. It's your invitation to join a trusted community that values quality, curiosity, and everyday excellence. Head to goodhousekeeping.com/GH+ and sign up today. Your kitchen, your home, and your peace of mind will thank you. We'll have links to all of this in our show notes today, so please check it out. That's goodhousekeeping.com/GH+. Of course, our guest is Kate Merker from Good Housekeeping, the Chief Food Director. We're talking all about the work that Kate does, and we'll have links in our show notes so that our audience can find out more about Kate and all of her great work at Good Housekeeping. We had a really wonderful conversation with a colleague of yours, Nicole Papadio, and we really got into grilling. And I wonder if you'd touch on some grilling recipes that you think are just really hot for this summer, because I think that will help our audience too. And maybe what's kind of coming from the Good Housekeeping Test Kitchen that you've really watched closely.
You bet. Nicole and I talk grilling all the time. If we could, I mean, both of us grill all year round. We love it. I will say that in terms of grilling in general, I think that we may be seeing a shift of the idea of grilling being outdoor cooking, and the what you can cook outdoors has changed, right? It's not just on a traditional barbecue. It might be a smoker. It might be a flat top. It might be a pizza oven. All of those pieces of equipment, including a grill, have now expanded this kind of outdoor world of cooking. And we're seeing a lot more people just interested in being outdoors and utilizing those things. And so we're trying to do the same.
Yeah. There's a great social component to it too. You know, we all enjoy being around, one another, and the summer, it just lends itself to that, and kind of cooking outdoors really allows us to gather.
Exactly. And I would say that one of the things that we talk about a lot is the idea that almost anything can be grilled, right? Some more successfully than others, but the list gets more fun and more fun as we experiment. So imagine your classic coleslaw recipe. You grill some wedges of cabbage before you cut it into your slaw. All of a sudden, you have a different dimension added to that dish.
Interesting. So what's the one grilled dish that everyone should know? Just kind of that baseline.
So I'm not sure that I would say there's one dish, right? I encourage people in general to think about ingredients themselves, right? And I always say vegetables. Think about mastering grilling vegetables, right? So for those meat eaters, I'm not suggesting that we eliminate meat entirely, but you can change the ratio of meat to veggies, which can often help with health goals. It can certainly be easier on the wallet. And if you're hesitant to grill vegetables, I would start with grilling a vegetable that you love, right? So master grilling it, and then the possibilities can grow from there. And the reason that I'm saying vegetables is because they're so versatile, right? Besides just drizzling with a simple vinaigrette and serving, once cooked, that vegetable, it has what we call legs, right? You can use it in so many different ways. You can fold it into grains. You can fold it into pastas. You can layer on sandwiches. You can roll it up in tortillas. Grilled peppers, mushrooms, green beans, asparagus, zucchini and eggplant. I mean, the list is practically endless. So my first thing is always vegetables. And if you're about to say, Paul, what's your vegetable?
Yeah.
If I have to choose only one to begin with, I think I would choose sweet potato, right? We talked a little bit about health in general, and I think that you can slice and grill one if you're cooking for one, or you can grill many, and then it can either be the start to a great side dish or a great main. One of my favorite recipes, and I can shoot you the link to it after this call.
Yeah.
It's served with we grill the sweet potatoes. It's served with some Greek yogurt, and then we drizzle it with kind of a quick pickled onion vinaigrette, and it is top notch, I'd say.
That is wonderful. Yeah, I love that recipe. We will share that with our audience too in our show notes so that everybody can benefit, because I think You write about this in one of your most recent cookbooks. You talk about this idea of nutrition without guilt. Tell us what that means.
Um, I think it's less about not having guilt and not sacrificing flavor, right? I mentioned the idea of not giving up meat and really adding. I think there have been a lot of people that, we've chatted with Stephanie Sassos, our nutrition director, about this. And um, we're not about just giving up cold turkey, right? It's more about creating a more well balanced diet lifestyle overall. And how can we do that? And how can we add other things into the mix? So one of the ways some of my mother's friends recently have said, we really want to still have XYZ, but I really want to add more vegetables into my family's kind of just daily mealtime routine. What should I do? And I say, tell me one dish that your family is going to be hands down popular. Everybody's going to eat it. They're going to be happy when you serve it. I would say fajitas is something that is often on people's go-to family dinners, mainly because it's easy and people like it. I would say if you have a grill, if you have a flat top, you can cook that entire meal at one time because you have a large surface area. So instead of using, say, 1.5 pounds of chicken, pork, or beef, maybe use 3/4 pounds or a pound and add a few more peppers and onions in, or add some mushrooms, things like that. Up your veg content without ditching the meat entirely. That's where I'd start.
Interesting. I think so many in our audience get rooted in a certain type of food, a certain taste. In our household, for example, we really have a multi-generational table. There's young and old, and so we can't really be rooted to that, to that one style or that one particular taste. How do you go about developing recipes that are going to appeal to kind of a multi-generational table?
Um, I would say, and I'm going to start with my own family. My kids are young, but I would say that my son he requests Indian and sushi and soup dumplings more than anything else.
Wow, that's great.
Which I do not make soup dumplings from scratch, but would be thrilled if somebody invited me to make soup dumplings with them.
Call goes out
And
right now, Kate.
right.
Yeah.
Part of what I think is important is to listen to what your family's eating, listen
Yeah.
to what they're interested in eating, and try to switch up the flavor profiles in the foods that you make. And some of that is as easy as the seasonings, right? I mean, you can go to the spice aisle and the choices are so much greater than they used to be, whether it's you combining spices yourself or buying a blend. There are so many companies that are literally traveling the world to bring to us some incredible flavors. And you can also check the condiment aisle. I mean, those alone, I mean, once you say it's grilled sweet potato, say it's a pork tenderloin, whatever it is, once you master, say it's a boneless, skinless chicken breast, you can easily change up that flavor profile with a sprinkle or a spoonful. And I would say that's a place to start. That's something that feels easy and it's fun to try. And if it doesn't hit, it doesn't hit, but it's still fun to chat about it, talk about it, and smell and taste kind of before you cook again and after you cook. And
Yeah.
it's fun to do that with the kids for sure.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that. Because certainly we in our household we're preparing meals, for all of us, and so all of us kind of gather, and we talked about this idea of the outdoors or grilling being kind of a community setting. Do you find that cooking with younger people is really a good way to kind of teach and to get an idea of what it is that they like best?
Oh, for sure. I
Yeah,
mean, cooking in general inspires both connection and conversation,
yeah,
right? And I also, I truly believe that the best way to travel the world isn't always getting on a plane, which not all of us can do. It's cooking a dish, right? That it is, any generation could ask. So at some point, your 7th-month-old grandchild's going to ask you, what's one of the favorite dishes that you have? And maybe it's some memory from some far off place that you visited. And you can recreate that at home without jet setting. That feels significant. It adds a story plus something that is tactile and you can smell and see and talk about. It's a place to talk about memories.
Yeah, it's really true. Our daughter-in-law is from Bolivia, so we're already kind of starting with some of these different varied flavors that, again, I have to say, as an old man, I have never tasted many of these things. I don't even know what they are, but I'm open to it, and I know our grandson's going to benefit from just that conversation as well as the food consumption.
It also is, I feel like food and cooking and recipes are a connective tissue, right? It's something that can, your daughter-in-law is rooted in one amazing culinary culture and has amazing culinary traditions. And now you get to share that in some way. It's beautiful and tasty.
Let's talk about some of the work that is being done within the lab, the Good Housekeeping lab, having to do with some of the equipment that's out there and air fryers. Are you finding that those are real solutions to, are you preparing recipes specifically for some of this equipment
Oh,
and then testing?
absolutely.
Yeah, talk
Absolutely.
about.
I would say the air fryer, it's something that I pull out more often than anything else at
Huh,
home. Um, Mainly because it's a mini convection oven, right? So all of a sudden I don't have to heat up my entire wall oven or my entire range to roast 1 pound of asparagus. I can pull out a small appliance. It heats up in, a couple minutes, sometimes less. And I have the same incredibly tasting um, item in the fraction of the time. So I would say the air fryer, it doesn't feel like, it should stick around. It's one of the reasons why Nicole and her team
huh.
continually test all the air fryers that are out on the market. And once they find the series of air fryers that have performed the best, then they go into the test kitchen. So as we develop and test recipes, we're using a combination of the things that have come out of their lab.
Take us behind the scenes, if you would, to some of the Good Housekeeping recipe work that you're doing, and I give us a glimpse because I think our audience is going to be familiar, certainly, with the Good Housekeeping seal. The lab does some really amazing work. How do you go about testing recipes? Does everybody just come with a recipe? Do you accumulate recipes over time? Do you focus on different cultures? How is it that you kind of are arriving at some of this work?
So I would say we call this, I've explained this as the life of a recipe,
Uh-huh.
right? And the first thing that happens is we dream, right? Our dream of culinary pros who come from all different backgrounds. We get inspiration from everywhere. It could be a supermarket shelf. I will tell you, I absolutely creep on people's supermarket baskets. So, because I'm interested in what they're buying,
Yeah,
right? If I
yeah,
see
sure.
half a dozen people in the supermarket putting one particular item in their basket, it makes me curious. So, and I do it wherever I go. Whenever I'm traveling, wherever I am, I definitely go to a supermarket. So we get inspiration from everywhere. It could be supermarket baskets, it could be supermarket shelves, it could be restaurant menus, family cookbooks, recipe boxes. Somebody may come in and say, I had the most amazing meal this weekend. And we talk about it. And then we ask ourselves, what's the best, easiest, tastiest, simplest way of making XYZ, right? So that's the first step. And the next step is developing. Our recipe developers leverage their culinary expertise, and that could be everything from working in restaurants, like Tina and I, to going to culinary school, which we also did, or catering, private chefing, any number, working in television. We leverage that expertise to transform that dream, that idea, into a dish that's ready to be tasted and tweaked. And sometimes it takes multiple adjustments to get it where we need to go. Then after that, the recipe gets written and edited. Meaning that it gets written by the developer and then edited by Susan, our recipe editor, and myself to the language that will appear in the magazine. And then we have somebody else test it. So we have an experienced recipe tester who follows the recipe as we've written it and makes the dish with a different appliance. And when I say different appliance, it means that if Tina developed the recipe on an electric range, it means that the tester is going to test it on a gas range, and then it will get tested again on an induction range. So the idea is that when a recipe leaves our kitchen, it will be successful in yours. So if we used maybe contadina crushed tomatoes to develop the recipe, we might use a different brand to test it. So we're not just changing up our appliances, we're also changing up the ingredients, making sure that we're leveraging all of our, again, taste and experience to make sure it works. And I call it, we test for success. So once a recipe is successful in our kitchen, we know that it will be successful in your kitchen. That's some
Yeah.
of what and how. I will say that we also do a lot of what I call side by sides. And we just in the issue that we're about to publish, our July-August issue, we developed a recipe for smoked ribs. So Nicole and I know that so many more people have smokers at home. Let's develop a rib recipe in that smoker. And so when I say side by side, it means that we're testing a St. Louis style rib against a baby back rib. And then we make slightly different kinds of sauces. We tested one sauce that had honey and one sauce that had maple. And it's a side by side. What works and tastes the best for this application? And once we figure that out, then we test it again and again. So that I would say that rib recipe maybe when it got smoked up about six or seven times before it went to be photographed for the magazine. I will tell you that we have a tuna noodle casserole we're on its 7th iteration in the test kitchen.
Couple
So
of really fascinating examples. I thought I haven't tried them yet, but they're definitely on my list. One is the lemon curd bars that you write about, and then the other that I liked was the everything Yagels, the Greek yogurt
the Greek,
bagels.
yes.
Yeah, those sound fantastic. Did you take 7 attempts? Sorry.
Well, I will tell you that I was at a sort of a culinary festival, and I was listening to the chef Sarah from Valrhona talk about chocolate. And she was talking about white chocolate and how there are many applications where you can use white chocolate instead of butter. One of them is lemon curd. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I have to try this immediately. So we went back to the test kitchen and I did a side by side of lemon curd, which I typically would finish with butter, and then lemon curd, which I finished with white chocolate, as Sarah had recommended. And I did a blind tasting with my entire staff and then a few other people from our innovation kitchen. And that white chocolate made it luscious and creamy and kind of beautiful in a totally different way. And so I used kind of that idea, again, a different place for getting inspiration, and turned it into a lemon kind of curd bar for that issue that we just published a couple months ago.
I love lemon bars too. And so we'll have links to the ribs. We'll have links to the lemon bars. We'll have links to the everything Yagels. Kate Merker, the Chief Food Director at Good Housekeeping, has been our guest today. Kate, what else are you working on? What can we look forward to talking to you again very soon? This is our kind of a wrap-up question.
I mean, there's so many things. There's so many amazing things coming out of our test kitchen. But the issue that's about to hit the stands, if you're looking for something to grill, we have a beautiful eggplant dish. I would say I could eat it at least 3 times a week. So if you're looking for something to experiment on the grill with, definitely start there. If you have a smoker, as Paul mentioned, we did some pretty killer ribs, kind of a sweet spice. And it's just fun to dream and to know that so many of the dishes that come out of our kitchen will help bring your family together.
Well, it's been fun to talk with you, Kate Merker, and I will tell you selfishly, I look forward to making some of these recipes, but talking to you in the future because I know this is just going to be an exciting area. We've got summer coming up. There's lots of other things that are in store, and I'm excited to learn more and try some of this great food and bring my family together in the same way.
Amazing. I look forward to it, Paul. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kate. And there you have it, a flavorful, inspiring conversation with Kate Merker, someone who proves that great food isn't just about recipes. It's about how we live, how we connect, and how we care for ourselves and those we love. From summer grilling made simple and healthy to tips for solo cooking and family feasts alike, Kate reminded us today that mealtime can be a moment of joy, even after all these years in the kitchen. And if you're anything like me, you're already thinking about what to toss into the recipe bin tonight. Again, those lemon curd bars are just really talking to me at the moment. So be sure to check out Good Housekeeping online and in print, where Kate and her team continue to serve up trusted advice that's backed by science. We're going to have links to all of Kate's information, all of the real-life testing, and everything, of course, delivered with heart. Thank you for spending time with us today. I'm Paul Vogelsang. This is the Not Old Better Show Good Housekeeping interview series, where we celebrate better living at every age. So until next time, stay curious, stay grateful, be well and healthy. Let's talk about better. We're going to talk soon. The Not Old Better Show Good Housekeeping interview series on radio and podcast. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Not Old Better Show Good Housekeeping interview series on radio and podcast. Good Housekeeping is more than just a magazine. It's a beacon of reliability, offering tested and trusted advice on everything from health and wellness to home improvement and recipes. With their iconic Good Housekeeping seal, you can trust the products and tips they recommend, knowing they've been thoroughly vetted for quality and effectiveness. To find out more about all of today's stories or to view our extensive back catalog of previous shows, simply visit notold-better.com. Join us again next time as we deep dive into some of the most fascinating real-life stories from across the world, all focused on this wonderful experience of getting better, not just older. Let's talk better. The Not Old Better Show Good Housekeeping interview series on radio and podcast.